Last week, we sat here and we were talking about Circa Survivor. Okay, so it's the biggest Survivor contest on the planet. And I think we were sitting with 30 contestants or 30 entries remaining. And we were talking about the idea of chopping. And then we said, well, it's going to really start to get fascinating once it gets down to about 15 entries or contestants remaining. And we are down to 13. The implied equity, each ticket is worth about, correct me if I'm wrong, boys, about $713K. Adam Burke does have a partner, so that means each are sitting with around $356,000 as we sit here today. That's no pressure. I did want to just mention there's no pressure as we say, there he is. There's the handsome one. Adam Burke, Amal Shaw, Dustin Sweetelson live from the D. I'm Patrick Maher live from Los Angeles. I'm just stating facts. I'm not trying to make you nervous, but congratulations. He had the Cleveland Browns. How about his hometown team coming through with Joe Flacco under center? Berkey, take a bow. How are we feeling?
Hey, what's up, Patrick? I got to say, I have to be fully transparent with this. The Browns were not my first pick last weekend, but that's the decision that we came to, my partner Mark Goldberg and I from SpookyExpress.com. That's the decision that we came to. And actually, I mean, we have not taken a road team so far with this entry throughout the Survivor contest. And we decided to stay off of Green Bay. They were kind of the team that we were thinking about throughout most of the week, decided to make a late switch to Cleveland. And fortunately, that one worked out because obviously last night, agonizing and condolences to our own Paulie Howard.
So Green Bay was in the mix. Can you kind of walk us through the final conversations and really when you both decided, okay, because my assumption is you decided, I know you decided on fading Jacksonville before Trevor Lawrence was announced that he was going to start.
Yeah, I will say that. We certainly didn't really expect Lawrence to play. Honestly, expected the weather to be a little bit worse, too. The field to maybe be a little bit sloppier that would possibly negatively impact Lawrence if he did end up playing. But honestly, I mean, the Browns' offense is better with Joe Flacco. And the biggest thing to me, and the Browns were on my consideration list. I think it was 37 years of having my heart ripped out that I didn't want to make them the first choice for me. But I knew that Jacksonville couldn't line up and power run the football against them the way that Denver did, the way that the Rams did. That's been the main weakness of Cleveland's defense here throughout the last few weeks. Jacksonville doesn't have that weapon in their arsenal. So I figured it was a decent matchup for Cleveland's defense. And honestly, if Amari Cooper doesn't fumble, that may be a blowout. So Cleveland was easily the better team, happy to get through and happy to avoid some of the other landmines that were out there in Week 14.
Adam, I got a proposal for you from a potential chop. $9 million at stake. What happens if you guys were to say 13 people remaining? Patrick mentioned it, roughly about $700,000 or $713,000. You say, okay, we chop $6 million, and then you play for the other $3 million. So you feel like you walked away with a significant amount of money, but also at the same time, I think that comes out to about $450,000 per entry. So you feel like you've actually walked away with some cash. Because the hard thing, Patrick, right now is you've come thus far, done a great job of navigating so many landmines, as you guys alluded to, and then to be down to one of 13 people, and if you come up empty, it feels just so difficult.
Yeah, look, I mean, you definitely want to get something at this point in time, right? I mean, yeah, the average equity is, as you guys mentioned, $713K. We did max out with the 10 entries, so, there's $10,000 into it. Not everybody has done that.
Sure.
So that's also a question. And that was the thing last night, about the Packers actually getting beat was not only did it eliminate 7 people, it maybe eliminated, 15 or 20 opinions in terms of a chop? Because a lot of people do have partners, they're part of groups, stuff like that, to where the fewer entries, obviously, the more equity your entry gets and the fewer people that you have to get to agree to a chop. My thought was like 5.2. There's 13 left. Everybody gets $400K.
Perfect.
And then you go from there and play for the rest. I do know that those discussions are being had. I don't know how much progress has been made on those discussions. I have a minority stake in our entry, so my partner is actually the one kind of going through all those conversations and then relaying the information to me. But I do know that those conversations are being had. The question is, do you get everybody who's involved with these 13 entries on the same page? Because it only takes one entry or one person to not allow that chop to happen.
Yeah, I said that to Patrick last week. We talked about this, that if somebody, let's say they're worth $100 million, they're going to be like, hell no.
Right. Yeah, and also, I mean, if you put in, let's say that you're in this, and I haven't checked to see the rest of the contestants or anything like that. If you have 1,000 or 2,000 into this, like, how much do you really want to chop? because your initial investment was pretty low. Now, you could also argue on the flip side, if you only have 1 or 2 entries, maybe money is a bigger deal to you, and you would be more willing to take a chop. So, I don't know. I'm just kind of waiting to see how all that plays out. And, of course, no matter what happens, we still have to pick a team to survive in advance this week.
How's your partner? We've mentioned your buddy Spooky a few times. I know you pretty well by now. You're a pretty medium guy. You don't get too high, too low, so it's a good temperament for something like this and probably sports wagering in general. How's your partner handling this?
His anxiety is definitely higher than mine. The thing that's really interesting about us and really the dynamic that we have is I'm science and he's art. So, we kind of try to blend the two. I'm very much in tune with the analytics and all of that, and he's kind of more of a, sort of traditional, I would say, handicapper when it comes to the NFL. Like I said, we haven't taken a road team with this entry. That's something that actually kind of weighed on his mind last week. I was a little bit less concerned about it. Honestly, I liked Houston the most, which thank God we didn't go with them because they were atrocious. But, he's art, I'm science, and we've been able to kind of blend that really effectively. But I've definitely been, and maybe it's because I do have a minority stake in it as opposed to what his position is, I've been a little bit more laid back. I've kind of been a little bit more of maybe of the more gambling-centric mindset of, hey, we could chop some of this, but let's kind of leave, a big carrot at the end instead of a smaller one. But, again, ultimately I'm kind of deferring to him with those discussions, and he's kind of wearing it a little bit more than I am. So, we'll see how that dynamic kind of plays out as we go forward, but all of our conversations continue to be fantastic. We continue to be on the same page. And, I was telling everybody this downstairs over at Circa. I have not watched one of our Survivor games since week 9.
Really?
So, maybe that's why I'm handling it a little bit better because he's living and dying with every snap.
The strategy is fascinating. So, as much as you can tell us, and again, feel free to edit and leave out whatever you want. And you're used to editing. Our managing editor, Adam Burke, is sitting in VSiN.com. We'll get to what's happening at the website here in a second. Do we know if we've talked to the remaining contestants? I know Spooky probably has a better idea. Has everybody kind of gotten involved in the conversation? That must be difficult. These are people all over the country. As much as you can tell me there.
So I think at this point in time, because we're down to 13 and because we're talking about such a significant prize pool, I think everybody kind of wants to be found and be part of those discussions. Certainly social media makes it a lot easier, and, platforms such as this and platforms like what Spooky has and what some of the other contestants have, they're able to kind of talk about those things. And certainly a lot of the higher profile people in this industry, including somebody like Bill Crackman, who's, of course, on a numbers game, those people are involved and invested in the contest in terms of the fact that it's a huge prize pool and it's in an industry that they love. So, they're also part of, maybe reaching out to some of the contestants. I know Mark specifically has talked to some past winners of the Circa Million, past cashes, some people that have won Survivor or been part of chops in the past, stuff like that. So there is a lot of networking going on. And again, with what's at stake now and what the implied entry value is, I do think a lot of people want to be found and want to at least hear out anybody's pitch for chopping this thing up.
Well, we are going to have another contestant who is alive on the show tomorrow, Adam, and as I can put you in touch with him and give you his details, but it's going to cost 0.5% of your ticket over there. My question, I guess, would be over, under, once the season ends, 1.5 more appearances on Sharp Money before you sail off into the sunset?
Well, again, I mean, I am talking about, I don't have, half split. This isn't fully mine, anything like that. I don't have right off into the sunset FU money like I talked about last week, but I love you guys. I enjoy this Tuesday spot. It would be hard for me to give this up no matter what.
You getting paid per SpookyExpress.com drop? SpookyExpress.com. It's a fantastic website. You should check it out, SpookyExpress.com.
I'm wearing the T-shirt here. Yeah. I got the Spooky Express T-shirt on. Somehow he managed to send me a shirt that was too big for me, which is kind of a shocker.
You're like a NASCAR driver.
Yeah, right. I know. Hey, if anybody wants, just I can work out some deals, put some patches on one of my jackets, something like that. I'm totally good with that. Honestly, I mean, it's fun to be able to be in this position and have these conversations. But, again, up until there's a chop or up until we survive to the end, right now this is just a great story. So, to me, it's still about surviving and advancing and, trying to handicap these games and try and get them right to the best possible degree.
Well, It's a legit sweat as a family here. We're pulling for you. I was just thinking this morning when I was taking the dog for a walk. Remember that time that I saw you on the side of the road and I changed your tire? I just randomly thought about it. Anyway, that was cool when I lived in Vegas. I saw Burke. He was having problems with the tire. I saw his wife crying, and I was just like, you know what? Let me take care of this. But anyway, Spooky sounds like a good dude too.
No, but what is the first kind of just like stupid purchase if you do walk away with some money here? Like what has been? Because I know back in the day I used to get that East Bay catalog. I used to circle.
Are they still in business?
No, they went out. I used to circle every shoe I wanted from that damn catalog. I got like 2 of them in like 15 years. What is like the first thing you and the wife are looking to buy? It doesn't have to be something crazy, but just like, hey, we have stupid money right now. Why don't we buy this?
I haven't even thought about it. And I'm not BSing you, and I haven't even thought about it, honestly.
I'm not even in it, and I'm already dreaming of things I would spend.
He's an experienced guy.
It's easy for you to want to spend my money.
Burke's an experienced guy. Adam Burke hanging out. Go ahead.
Not all of it is necessarily on purchases you would think. I have some very smart ideas of what I do with the money.
I got you. Now, let me just set this up quickly. We're talking about it because the implied equity of having one of the 13 entries remaining in Circa Survivor is $713K for each entry. And, of course, Adam Burke splitting with his buddy Spooky. Before we get to Dustin's list, edit. So talk about whatever you want. You can tell me who you have left for this week, or you can keep the strategy to yourself. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's publicly available who you have left. Circa publishes it throughout the course of the week. There are other websites out there tracking it, Survivor Atlas, Survivor Sweat, just a couple of them. We have to save San Francisco for Christmas. I mean, otherwise we'd be taking the Giants because that's the only team we'd have left, and I'm absolutely not doing that if we get into that position. So we have to save San Francisco. We do have them, but they're not a consideration this week. The Rams are on our list. The Bengals we have as well. The Packers coming off of that heartbreaking loss. The Titans are another team that could potentially be in the mix. To me, I think we kind of have 4 teams that we can discuss here throughout the course of the week. And, as I was talking about off air with them all, I think what's really tough at this point in time and may kind of be a little bit of fuel towards people deciding to kind of chop this up a little bit. A lot of these 6.5, 7-point types of favorites really struggling here over the last few weeks. So it's not like anybody is a great option at this point in time. There are some entries that may have better teams than others and some entries that may be kind of up against it as we go forward. But for us this week, our considerations will be the Rams, the Bengals, the Packers, and the Titans. And maybe Atlanta on the road against Carolina, I guess.
Well, just thinking out loud, Washington right now is completely, you don't even have to hear Montez Sweat crushing the organization to know that Washington shut it down. So the Rams very much battling for a postseason spot. I don't hate that. If it is going to be Davis Mills, Berkey, I do love the spot. Just forget Levis. Just run the football at home with Henry against Houston. I do like that as well. I think those are actually this deep. I don't hate what you have remaining.
Well, and that's been the thing about all season long, and I kind of talked about this a little bit on the show last week and also in some previous segments in other places, but we planned for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We wanted to make sure we had a good option for those 2 holiday weeks. Other than that, it was kind of, hey, take the team now if you want to take the team now. And this has been the perfect year to have that kind of philosophy because we've got backup quarterbacks everywhere around the NFL. And even in some cases, some third stringers. And even in Cleveland's case, they wind up with Joe Flacco, who's probably a top 5 quarterback in the last 25 years for them. So, that's been something that's been pretty interesting is planning ahead maybe hasn't worked as well. And to think now at this point in time that the Bengals are under consideration for us without Joe Burrow at quarterback just kind of speaks to how strange this season has been.
That's why Patrick mentioned it earlier, or it might have been Dustin, but to be able to navigate this far in this season is really impressive. You guys had 10 entries. Did you guys double up on your picks early on and then start to kind of go in different directions, or did you just start from week 1 doing 10 different selections in essence?
Yeah, so there were some weeks where we definitely, kind of doubled up. There was one week, I believe, actually, where we tripled up. We had 3 left, and we wound up taking the same team with all 3 of them. So, there was one the week we lost when Cincinnati lost to the Texans, where Tyler Boyd, if he catches that ball in the end zone, they win that game. Yeah. We had 2 of our 3 entries on Cincinnati that week. So we wound up being able to keep one alive, and of course that's the one that's still hanging on right now. But Yeah, we had doubled up, a few times earlier on in the season, and now it's just it's also more of a collaborative effort. Earlier on, it was kind of, here, I'm going to take care of these Survivor entries. You're going to take care of these. And we had some conversations to make sure we weren't too exposed on certain sides. But a lot of it was sort of, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Here's who I want to take. All right, here's who I want to take, and not overexpose ourselves. Now, for the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's been that very joint effort where, again, he's art and I'm science. And I think we balance each other out well. And hopefully it continues.
All right. Well, we're pulling for you. Excited to see who you pick. Have you got your gluttonous list together, big guy?
Yeah, it's a little bit harder than I thought. I'm trying to come up with some stuff, but I've got a good list. You figure what? I walk home with $4.5 million after taxes.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good point of demarcation. Yep.
All right, so I think $2 million on a house seems fair. $2 million in Vegas. Vegas $2 million, not in New York $2 million.
You could buy Bill A.D.'s garage.
Yeah, I think I would want a basketball court full with glass backboards. That's part of the mix. Want enough space to have like a baseball field, have some home run derbies. I'd also immediately just take $1 million and I would divide it among, 7, 8 family members and go, here's a lump sum, never ask for anything again. There's no more money coming. This is a big chunk. This is yours, but never ask again for more money. That leaves me a couple million left to spend. I'd spend
1.5.
I'd spend about $350K to put a Chick-fil-A franchise in my home. I don't care if it loses money. I don't care if it makes money, but I will only eat Chick-fil-A for the rest of my life. Because I can afford to do that.
You're thinking about the profitability of a Chick-fil-A inside your house?
No, I don't. But I would pay all the fees that I need to be a licensed Chick-fil-A, but not available to the public, just for me. Because as a kid, I watched the movie Richie Rich, and he had his own McDonald's, and I was like, that's the best thing ever. I would want a Chick-fil-A. I'd buy new teeth. That's about $100K. I looked it up. I'd buy a Ferrari.
That expensive?
Ferrari's about a $500K. Bentley's about $400K. I would pay for a barber to be on call for me at all times of the day. So I'd basically get a haircut every 2 or 3 days. I would never shave myself again. And then finally, the last thing I'd buy is a wife.
You know what you need to look into? The one thing that's not listed on here, you're going to need a bankruptcy attorney.
Okay. I'll have a great time, though.
Yeah, as far as big purchases, and we don't want to get ahead of ourselves because we don't want to jinx our buddy Burke. I'm not a car guy, so I think immediately I just lose my mind as far as like what I would want because I don't care about cars. Never have, never will. So it's like after that, maybe just a residence, I guess.
I'm with you on that. But PM, it's surprising coming from you because you grew up in Michigan, right? Like how many of your friends growing up that their parents worked at GM, Ford, or Chrysler?
Every single person I know, and I don't. Maybe I was just doing the contrarian bit and going the other way because I don't know. That's not cars, but that's generally if you think about falling into money, right? You think about buying a house or buying a car.
I'd want a classic car too. Yeah, I definitely want to something really cool and old that like only rich people can afford because the parts are expensive.
I'd go with an old Ford Mustang.
Yeah, I only don't care about cars because I can't afford one, which is why I drive a Kia.
I like how we're all Burke's just sitting there silent, and he's the one that actually has this option
Burke's
on the table.
Burke's going to buy a band. He's going to be like, how much to buy the rights to all your music?
No, it would be a lot of travel. There's a lot of places I want to go that I haven't seen.
What's number one on your list?
What's the list?
Give us top 2 or 3.
Jesus, off the top of my head, I mean...
I feel like a Bali guy.
I mean, number one to me would probably be like Italy or Greece or something, which people do, but I just haven't done it.
Same.
I just haven't done it.
Same.
Have you ever left the country?
Been to the Dominican, obviously Canada. Yeah, that's it.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.